19 days. It took Bungie 19 days to respond, but they finally did. So we got here, Destiny State of the Game. Let's talk about it. Yesterday we got a teaser from Mr. Joel Blackburn himself saying this is about to be the best State of the Game we've ever seen. Not my exact words, but he promised some things. He promised that it was going to be in-depth and it was going to be good. And initial reactions after first read, it's not that good. And I'll let you know why. When talking about ritual updates, the changes that Bungie has made to ritual activities throughout the course of the years have been pretty good, and this year specifically with the exotics being added to the core playlist as ritual rewards has been a good change. And now this here, the focusable ritual weapons at the vendors from the start of the season, that's also a great change. The same thing with saying just a little bit more weapons to be earned, throughout the season, as well as the return of Ignis Hammer and the Soul and the Warden's Law coming back as a Nightfall reward. It's all good, but it's not new. It's just a clever way for them to recycle content while they try to buy themselves time. And so the article decides to start with PvP because Bungie knows that's where the bulk of their focused players are going to be looking at PvP. Just for starters, Elephant in the Room, new PvP map based on this screenshot. I like the theme, I like the location. It feels like, just off of this one screenshot, that it's going to be pretty lane heavy. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of sniper domination on this map, specifically Cloud Strike, but who knows, some other sniper might be in a good place. Two new game modes, or rather, not two new game modes, one new game mode, Relic, the new 6v6 mode, which I do think is an interesting rotator/chaos game mode. And the gunplay focused checkmate modifier. This seems like it's going to be the most interesting thing to me. The checkmate modifier. Destiny is already way too overpowered with abilities right now. It's just ability spam simulator. To the actual changes to the Ascended Division, I don't particularly care about. A new emblem. Hopefully it's good this time. I'm not a big fan of the old one. We're going to be testing Relic and Checkmate throughout this season. So this is stuff we're going to be getting right now for Crucible. But besides that, what else do they say about Crucible? They describe the Relic game mode and the checkmate modifier and the new map a little bit. It's just a lot of wasted words just to say new map, new game mode, new modifier. Now, matchmaking improvement too. Loose Fireteam matchmaking. I like Fireteam matchmaking. It makes trials way easier to load into for a solo player. Hopefully it'll address some of the issues in casuals with Fireteam, with Fireteams being mismatched, 6 stacks being matched against a bunch of solo players. Maybe we'll have a little bit more balanced match-made teams that way. Further ahead, they want to deliver a new Iron Banner mode. I think the current rotation of Rift, Eruption, and Fortress are just bad. I do not like them at all. I think that Eruption punishing players for doing well is garbage. I do like Fortress as the best one, but, classic vanilla Iron Banner will always be my favorite just because it works. It is what Iron Banner is, the same way that freelancing trials, right? The 3v3 game mode, single elimination. You wouldn't switch that up, besides with the flags coming in to break stalemates. It's a little bit something different. Now, when they start talking about Vanguard strikes, a couple things are deeply concerning to me. In a whole heck of a lot of words, they say that medals are coming back to strikes like they were in Guardian games or like they were at the end of Destiny 2 with the way the scoring is kept. This is a big nothing burger. Having medals in Vanguard strikes is just something players can chase individually. There's probably going to be no rewards from it. I don't expect them doing much to go with the medals. And when they say they're focusing their team's resources into frequent seasonal activities such as Battlegrounds, I don't like Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds are bad. I go into this in depth in my State of the Game video. I talk about why Battlegrounds are bad and why I don't like them. It just absolutely kills the identity of the Vanguard game mode, and it's just bad to me. Like, it just doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to just fundamentally change what the strike playlist is supposed to be. And there's nothing worse than loading into Destiny to play strikes or to get challenges done in strikes and getting hit with some of the worst battlegrounds known to man. Psyops Moon is terrible. The Heist Battleground Mars is terrible. It's just not a good look. It really isn't. I don't like what they're doing with strikes. I like even less what they're doing with Gambit. They say ever since, many of you have noticed, we've been quiet on Gambit since last year's overhaul. They've been less than quiet. They've said almost nothing in 4 years on Gambit ever since Gambit Prime came out. Gambit has just been absolutely neglected. And then they took 2 maps out of the game. Like, where are we supposed to go from here? Now, while we don't have more resources to significantly transform Gambit, we do have updates planned for the year of the final shape. What updates? They say nothing. They say updates generally. You know, we were promised, and I'll include the screenshot in post, we were promised by Joe that they were going to work on new maps, that they were going to work on more Gambit content, but it seems like they just completely shifted all of their resources. They're announcing bringing back a map that they took away. This isn't a sustainable business model for players. Obviously for Bungie, it makes them money. Like, they're going to be able to sustain this business model forever, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. I'm happy that Cathedral of Scars is coming back. It was probably my second favorite map in Forsaken, with the exception of, I think I like the Titan map way more than I like any of the other maps. That one's still in the game. I just think it has a lot of good elements to it. Now, this is the most egregious part of this entire article, in my opinion. Before then, we are making Gambit entirely optional. Let me just zoom in on this. Entirely optional. Bungie are completely and utterly abdicating their responsibility to maintaining something that is supposed to be a core pillar of their game. It's just mind-blowing. I don't understand what was going through their minds when they decided to make one of their core game modes optional. Besides, Gambit doesn't make money. Tell us, be straight with us. It isn't financially feasible to keep Gambit going as a game mode, but they're dangling potential updates, future updates. They've already lied about it in the past. What's not to think that they'll lie about it in the future? Bring Cathedral Scars back once and then just continue on their merry way. It is shameful that they are just neglecting Gambit to this degree. You might say to yourself, oh, entirely optional to maximize your rewards unless you're looking for a piece of gear that's specific to the mode. So technically speaking, you can just earn your 3 exotic engrams a week just by playing Gambit, like some people like all playing Gambit. I love Gambit. It's currently my favorite of the 3 core game modes. However, it is so neglected. It's not even fair. I can't even spend as much time as I want to talking about this. I want to do its own specific video in the future about Gambit, but reducing number of specific Gambit seasonal challenges in Season 22. They're encouraging players to spend less time in Gambit than ever before. I am fully anticipating Gambit queue times to take longer and longer and longer every single season, just because of the fact that there are not enough players to populate the playlist, because there is nothing worthwhile encouraging players to play Gambit. Back in the day when we had the pinnacle weapons, when we had the breakneck, the hush, the delirium, we had good things to chase, the exit strategy, pinnacle and ritual weapons that were actually worth our time. But now, what are we doing? And we hope you'll visit Old Drifter next season to get your hands on his new Void machine gun. I don't care. I care that they make the game rewarding. Maybe I'll eat my own words, and this Void machine gun that they're adding will be the best thing on the planet. And then what? And then what? You get it once, and then what? What happens then? Moving down a little bit further to the actual rewards of the game modes, a long time ago we shared a plan to address concerns on rewards balancing. Players have pointed out that we didn't release a new armor set for the ritual playlist with Lightfall as we previously called out in our yearly release schedule. They admit they lie, they did it right here. Let's move on. Quote, delivering ritual armor sets at the rates we have in the past has become increasingly challenging. Hasn't been challenging to add Eververse sets a season. I think 5 new ones were added this season, not to mention the collaborations, not to mention the event sets that, you can only get the fully upgraded for through the Eververse, especially considering these sets have had historically low adoption by both player as base karma sets and ornaments. They're essentially saying here they do not care to develop it because they do not think players not only will earn it, but use it. You can say that's fair, but they promised it. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. They've just been reskinning and just retooling existing sets in the game, bringing back stuff that they already released to attempt to fix problems of their own making. And now, at this time, we're amending delivery plans for how often we refresh the seats, and we will no longer be creating a new set for every expansion. They haven't been creating a new set for every expansion. They did it during Lightfall. They've barely been releasing enough unique armor sets for the game modes to cover their own hides. Like, who is still working on Destiny at this point? What is going on? All of the teams that they currently have seem like they're being moved elsewhere. To Marathon, to Matter, to unannounced IP number 4 that allegedly they're being worked on according to the PlayStation Activision that they received billions of dollars for. We'll also have a new armor set for Trials of Osiris releasing just in the next few short weeks. This is coming the next season. Trials of Osiris should have a new armor set every single season. Iron Banner should have a new armor set every single season. It used to be the norm that every expansion and every other DLC we received a new armor set for both Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner. We haven't received that. We've been using the same armor for quite a while now. I can't remember the last time when it was actually released. We need a new cosmetics. They can't abdicate their responsibility to make cosmetics because they think no one's going to use them. That isn't their determination. It's players to determine whether or not they could knock it out of the park. I know plenty of armor that I've never seen a single player use in my entire life, but it's still in the game. There's certain Eververse sets I've never seen players use ever. Maybe it's the most popular armor set overseas, and I play North American servers, but they're finding time to make the Eververse armor sets because it makes them money. I encourage you, stop buying silver, stop buying Eververse sets. They do not learn their lesson what players actually want. They're moving all of the content into the Eververse store. We've been seeing that. Askatros made a fantastic video that I reference often on how Bungie is moving the content into the Eververse store. Moral of the story is, what Bungie's doing with the armor, what Bungie's doing with the core game modes is simply unacceptable. They're abandoning Gambit, as by their own admission, making Gambit optional, right? And they're retooling the challenges. They're bringing back a single map that was already released. It's not a good look. And quite frankly, I have no idea how these sections on Gambit, on Vanguard, and on the Crucible made it past internal filters. Moving on, the section on game security, I've noticed, personally speaking, in the past 4 or so weeks, I haven't encountered a single cheater, but then again, I haven't played a single game of Trials of Osiris in 4 weeks, so I don't know. I haven't had too much of a focus on playing competitive portions of the game enough to the point where I can encounter cheaters like that. Last time Iron Banner was around, I played the heck out of it, had a good time, no cheaters. Last time I played Trials, which was 4 weeks ago, I got cheaters once every other card, so I assume they're doing better. They need to add features that tell us when players are banned, or tell players why they are banned when they're getting banned. We already know the work Bungie's doing to sue cheaters, and I'm not like other people. Companies can focus on multiple things at the same time without their product suffering. Bungie suing cheaters and cheat manufacturers, well, specifically, Bungie suing cheat manufacturers, I do not think is a problem. Bungie's legal team is an entirely separate entity from their game development team, and I just think it's pretty good. The evidence of BattleEye, working to be in the game. I know in other games like Rainbow Six Siege or in CSGO or other games that have anti-cheat technology, I know Battlefield tells players when they've gotten banned, like while you're still actively in the game. Valorant tells players when they're banned. They even reset the games when players are banned while you're playing in it, just so nobody's penalized or helped by having a cheater on their team. And players getting banned without getting any real reasons why. I've seen, maybe it's just the side of Twitter I'm on, but a lot of reports of false bans by reputable players that some I know personally, some I don't know personally, that are gotten bans on their main or their alternate accounts for alleged cheating with no evidence of it and no explanation to provide it to people who've spent multiple hundreds of dollars playing this game over the years. Now, this section here received countless mentions that they don't remember cheating. I completely agree with them here when they actually say that Players playing on your account and cheating is a bannable offense. I feel that you shouldn't be dumb enough to give a player your account. Don't do it. It's stupid. Do not give somebody else your account. For most reasons, if you can't play the game during an event, maybe give it to somebody you trust. But then again, how worth it really is it? Come on. Stability issues. I've noticed that the servers haven't gone down a lot. There was an excellent thread released a couple weeks ago detailing the actual technical limitations of Bungie and of the servers for Destiny and what they were doing to fix it, how they were handling data management, how they were handling queue systems, how they were handling, as they say, logs and metrics for their claim systems, and for their other services too, like the Bungie API tools. That's why they shut down when they release new seasons or new expansions. I have noticed personally that Destiny is a much more stable game now than it was a month ago. Maybe it's because I've been working more and I haven't had as much time to play Destiny, but in the time that I've wanted to play Destiny, there has only been one singular instance in the last 30 days when I could not play Destiny, and that was in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock in the morning during an expected shutdown that they announced hours beforehand to do updates, I presume, or server maintenance. Internal chaos testing, I'm not a game developer. I don't entirely know what this means. I can only gather that they've developed themselves new tools to test the impact of new items on new and existing systems, just so there's no situation where we get a Telesto or Revision Zero breaking the game because they're not supposed to shoot through barriers the wrong way without breaking anything, or Trinity Ghoul just shutting and crashing people's games down at the beginning of Forsaken, which was one of the funniest times to play Crucible, by the way. It was just amazing. More of what's to come, the seasonal structure. I don't know why they included this here. This is a big nothing burger. As we mentioned in February, we've been working behind the scenes to shake up the seasonal paradigm this year to subvert player expectations and make each season feel unique. I genuinely do not know why they said this. It has been known since Season of the Seraph that players are mad at the current seasonal rotational model. It's not fun. The modes go away. We would much rather have new and existing expansions added into the game that we can play at any time we want without the fear of it getting removed whenever the next expansion year comes out. I know I personally did not get to finish all of the content related to, for example, Season of Plunder or most of Season of the Seraph. I didn't like Season of Plunder. I like Season of Seraph, so there's something to go with that. I don't know what they're going to do to switch it up, but it does not feel to me that this was an appropriate place to mention the seasonal structure, because this is effectively Joe Blackburn hanging the keys in front of the baby, jangling it, saying stick around until next time, in a preview of what's to come. Before we get into our 6-month progress report for our year so far, we want to share some previews of several quality of life upgrades to the core sandbox coming in Season 22. Credit where credit is due. Whenever I go to put on cosmetics, typically the only shader I'm ever putting on is the Bitter Pearl / Chatter White all-white shader that you get from Vault of Glass. So I just look for the season of the Vex or whatever it was called. I don't know what it was called, but the season Vault of Glass came out, and I just look for the logo and scroll to that page with all the similar logos and just pick out my Chatter White / Bitter Pearl from there. So shader favoriting, it's not going to affect me that much, but I have like 6 or 7 shaders that I would like favorited at all times. Just for my preferred looks, my preferred styles. So this is a good change. This, yes, everything about this stasis fragments being available is fantastic. It should have been like this at the beginning of Lightfall. I don't know why. Some people can say it takes away the grind behind Beyond Light, and that part of the game you paid for was the grind, and I don't care. Stasis fragments are so annoying to get, especially on new characters. We have to replay the story, and you were only able to get 2 per week at a time, and the challenges were so frustrating. These changes to stasis are good. I wish they would add more fragments. I don't know why they haven't added more. It's been quite a while. I know their focus is on Strand, but I digress. Transmats being unlocks. I have literally never applied a transmat in my entire life. It used to be because they were consumable. Now it's just because I don't care. But I think I'll apply them now because they're infinite, and it just clears up more space in my inventory too, which hopefully which hopefully I believe is going to fix some issues with Bungie's claims processing services. So this is kind of a double-edged sword from them. It looks like a really good change, but dig a little bit deeper down to it, it's going to help them by removing items from the game and turning them into unlocks. This I find to be one of the funniest pieces of information out of the entire article: the resources tab. The resources tab proves that the person whose account they were testing this on, the developer whose account they were testing this feature on, or the internal tool they were using, that account had never completed a Grandmaster Nightfall. We used to say back in the day, Bungie don't play their own game. I look to this screenshot for evidence. Moving on. Wish Ender Pursuit improvements. Wish Ender is just removing a quest slot from three items to one. This took way too long. Like, Forsaken came out in 2018. It's been 5 years now. It should have been done already, but kudos, I guess. God, I'm talking forever. The changes to the Iron Banner challenges, more or less, good change. A different way to earn the challenges that doesn't force you to play a single subclass is good. I hate having to be locked into a specific subclass just to do a challenge. I wish that subclass specific challenges would just be removed in the future in favor for either match progress or kills or points gotten via capturing flags or doing objectives in the game mode to encourage people to do objectives. But whatever, I guess. We'll see how it goes. And this right here, ritual rank ups immediately. Long waited. No longer will we have to deal with the screen coming up at a really bad time or coming all at the same time and missing it when you hit orbit, or not knowing and not being able to go to the tower. I still think you should be able to reset these from orbit like you used to do with the old Gambit system. You could reset that from orbit. You just hold F on it and, it would reset. Now you have to go to the vendor to claim your rewards. I get it, but, I don't know what the solution is to ritual rank rewards. Now, updates to the Sandbox. At the start of Season 22, adding 3 new Strand aspects. I think that they should be adding a new Strand aspect once per season until the new DLC. And even in the new DLC, there should be 5 Strand aspects available by the time Final Shape launches. If there isn't, it is a massive wasted opportunity. And in the same breath, I draw new aspects need to be added for the existing subclasses and stasis. I think there should be 5 aspects per subclass. It's not unreasonable to suggest that they come up with something new for Arc, for Void, for Solar, and for stasis. Come on. They have people doing this already. What is stopping them from putting in extra time? Insert beware of over-delivery screenshot, and moving on. Exotic armor reworks. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what the reworks are. I feel that there's a couple exotics that I personally would like to get reworked. Specifically, number 1 on the list, Actum Rig. I think there's a lot of interesting things that can happen with Actum Rig. There's a couple tweaks that I think can happen to older exotics. Sealed Ahmgar Grasp, Radiant Flux. Some of the other things that's fallen below the power curve. I'm not too familiar with Warlock exotics, but I'm sure there's a couple of them. I'm sure there are. Boots of the Assembler, maybe. Those, they're good, but they should do more. In new weapon subfamilies, too, when they say new weapon subfamilies, they're probably just going to take, I don't know, the funnel web frame and just make it shoot 100 RPM faster. Or I would like it if they brought back an auto rifle. Bullet hose auto rifles that we used to have, but maybe they don't work anymore for a reason. I think there should be more different RPM and archetypes for weapons, not less, like they've been taking away, not adding more. Weapon tuning. I have literally no opinion on weapon tuning. Weapon tuning in the ranges, specifically max fall-off ranges and damage engagement ranges, have very little effect on most of the maps anymore. It's only at extreme distances that these gunfights are happening, where this would even matter. Most engagements are between a certain 10 to 20 meter range. Submachine guns are already dominating those ranges. You can't really fix ranges without either dramatically lowering some archetypes or some weapon types like scouts or SMGs, or buffing some severely like I don't know, hand cannons. But hand cannons were super strong for a reason, and that was their range aspect. But hand cannons have fallen behind the curve since they're a little bit more difficult to use than pulse rifles, I'd say. I'm just going to move on. They show a screenshot of Touch of Malice, probably top 10 exotic weapons of all time. They say they're doing funky with it, something funky with the Touch of Malice is getting some tweaks we think players will enjoy. Maybe it's adding on a weakened feature to the Blight to make it just a tad bit more useful to other weapons, sort of like a support feature. I think that'd be cool. I can also see them redoing one of the integral perks on the weapons, giving it something like Unrelenting as a boost to its catalyst. Same thing too. Swords are getting fixed a little bit. Reworking bipod. Bipod sucks. I know they brought it back. It used to be tripod, but bipod is it just does not make sense to use bipod under any circumstances other than saying, haha, rocket launcher funny. 4 rockets in the tube. That's the only time you ever use it. Underover, I've never used Underover before. Envious Assassin is one of the perks of all time. Yeah. Moving on. Reinforcing our goals for the year. About 6 months ago, we sought to achieve 4 main goals. Bring challenge back to Destiny. Enrich our content. Connect our Guardians. Expand players' imaginations. One by one. Expanding players' imaginations. I think that they succeeded. The story for Lightfall was so abysmal that players' imaginations had to expand to fill in the gaps that Bungie left with its story. Intentionally or unintentionally, Lightfall's story and the storytelling since then has been dreadful. Bringing challenge back to Destiny 2. They launched this article before the release of Lightfall, and we saw exactly where that landed us. We have the easiest Grandmasters of all time. We have the easiest raid of all time in Root of Nightmares, and the probably hardest dungeon of all time, but for the wrong reasons. It's not hard because it's challenging, because the mechanics are fair enough. It's hard because the boss's health are just too high, just unreasonably high. They substitute big numbies for challenge and think that it's supposed to work that way. They give the boss more time to kill you rather than giving you more options to kill the boss, which kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Enrich our content. They've enriched something, all right. They've definitely enriched themselves, and I think that they have more money than even God knows what to do with if they're wasting their time and money writing this document. Even though I think, Joe Blackburn does a good job every once in a while, he earns his spot as game director. But besides enriching themselves, I think that this season of the Deep gameplay loop is good. Call me a pariah, or call me a messiah, whatever you want. I think that season of the Deep's gameplay loop is good. I didn't think that season of the Defiance gameplay loop was good because it was too similar to previous years. But the deep dive, the changing up, the salvage game mode. Salvage is pretty standard, but deep dive I think is pretty good. Even if the randoms don't know how to do tier 7s yet, it's okay. And connecting our Guardians, I feel less connected to Guardians than ever. The only instances where I talk to other Guardians is when I'm in my own clan Discord server, with my friends, or in my own personal Discord server, with my friends. But none of those are playing the game. My clan really doesn't even play the game anymore because they're currently disillusioned with the state of the game, as am I. But it's changed recently. I'm a bit more optimistic than ever, even though I still am angry. So, where does Bungie rate itself? First up, 1, expand players' imagination. We transformed many of the ways players typically interact with the game, from core systems, build crafting, and streamlining seasonal currencies. Streamlining seasonal currencies is probably the only place I give Bungie credits. When they say core systems, what do they mean by core systems? They mean things like the new loot, or the updated way to earn loot through the core seasonal to the core game modes with the exotic engrams and the ritual playlists, which are good. Build crafting overhauls, kinda. I mean, we have less options now than we have ever. Admittedly, more of the options are more balanced, but mods still break on a frequent basis, and there's new bugs discovered all the time, most of which are patched pretty frequently. Streamlining seasonal currencies. They've removed pretty much all resources and all vendor tokens from the game. I think all the vendor tokens have been removed from the game at this point. Not to mention when they say seasonal currencies, I think there's one seasonal currency besides fish. It's like the keys. You know, it's okay. They replaced the vendor upgrade model. I like the replace the vendor upgrade model. It's good. It was so boring before to just wait once a week. You can get 2 more upgrades or 3 more upgrades, 2 more upgrades, 2 more upgrades, whatever. It took forever, and it was an artificial time gate. Admittedly, it is still artificially time gated by the fact that these challenges aren't all available at launch. And I think we had to wait until week 3 before maxing out the sonar table. Now, without spoiling anything ahead of the showcase, the next season we'll be heading into creative territories we've never explored before. Creative territories that they've never explored before is actually over-delivering. That is the creative territory that they've only achieved one single time. So they lied in the article. They've over-delivered a single time. You know, and their definition of an over-delivery is what most people would consider what a standard expansion would be. Cough, cough, Forsaken, cough, cough, Activision might not have actually been the problem. R will be revealed on August 22nd. That is approximately 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 days. Okay, so it took Bungie 19 days to make their response video, and now it's going to take them 19 more days to drop the trailer. So I feel like I'm controlling the direction of this company personally, so I feel I should be the game director. I'm not gonna. I can't keep that in the video. All right, moving on. Taking a step back to examine the overall narrative for the year, the team is laser focused on ensuring the connective tissue in our storytelling between Season 20 and 23 in the final shape. I will tell you, first and foremost, personally speaking, the story now has only been worse one time in Destiny's history, and that time was the gap between Vanilla and Forsaken, when Curse of Osiris and Warmind were the seasonal stories or the expansion stories of the hour. Part of it was because the expansions were so short you can barely call them expansions. Part of it was because their writing team probably didn't know what they wanted to do, because they hadn't planned out 7 years of Destiny 2. They probably planned out 3, and we're going to make a Destiny 3. Lightfall story was a dumpster fire. Veil Containment was supposed to fix the issues. They made a story without telling anybody what was in the story. The storytelling should be better. They were more interesting on making Lightfall a filler expansion. It is clearly and plainly obvious that the entirety of the Lightfall expansion was supposed to be included in the final shape, and they put it together as a rush job. You can tell this because the beginning and final cutscenes of Lightfall added together perfectly. Like, they were supposed to be one unbroken cutscene, but it was changed, and it was made so that Lightfall would be the expansion of the year. That's my conspiracy theory. You cannot prove me wrong, because Bungie won't even prove me wrong. Next. We know there's some of you who would prefer to experience these stories during the Lightfall campaign. Yes. Whatever happened to Bungie releasing full campaigns within themselves? Whatever happened? For the past, 3 years now? They've broken up the story into seasons? It's annoying. I personally pay minimum $100 a year. That is $100 a year to play this video game and to have all of the content, and it still takes them 12 months to deliver it. What happened? What happened to their marketing? What's happening? I gotta touch grass, man. I gotta touch grass. We're taking the feedback to heart and loading this year with more important moments designed to capture the players' imaginations. I can say so far that nothing in the story has captured the players' imaginations. We're taking the feedback to heart and loading this year up with important moments designed to capture players' imaginations and move the saga forward with each beat. They've already proven that with Season of the Deep, with the revelations of the Witness Origin. On the Witness Origins, they dropped probably the most important cutscene in the franchise's history on a random Tuesday in July. Just a random Tuesday. It was just there. People didn't know about it. because they're losing players. They're hemorrhaging players when they say they want to captivate the players and get them to engage with the game. The wrong way of doing it is with the current seasonal storytelling model. Like, I understand better than anyone the business aspect of this, but as a gamer, it is so wrong to me to have dedicated nearly 10 years of my life to this franchise and to still be disrespected day in and day out. I've been playing this game. I've been in this universe. I've been in the trenches since the summer of 2014. I wasn't even in high school at that moment. I was 13 years old in the trenches, and I'm still getting disrespected at nearly 23 years old. It is miraculous. It really is. Especially this line right here. We know that there are some who would have preferred to experience these stories during the Lightfalls campaign. With those players in mind, we believe the totality of this year's narrative will set the stage for the final shape. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't. They're not confident in themselves. I do not care how many times that this line is said. Bungie have all but abandoned Destiny. They haven't committed to anything. The most commitment that we're getting is this. The final shape and its raid will provide a climatic conclusion to the Light and Darkness saga before we look ahead on what comes next in Destiny 2. This line, as much as I'm angry about everything else about the way Bungie storytelling has been going since 2019, this gives me a little bit of hope that they aren't just abandoning the game after the final shape. Now, I have some ideas on what's going to happen with the Destiny after the final shape, which I'll do a separate video on, but the final shape and its raid providing a climatic conclusion to the story means what comes next in Destiny 2, that they're still going to support the game. I think they do. I think it's going to be in a smaller capacity. I think we're going to just get everything at a smaller scale than we're getting it now. And they're kind of committing to the future. I don't know where the line is exactly, but we'll find it later. Moving on, bring challenge back to Destiny 2. I don't like this. I'm not even going to go into this that deep. The game is easier than it's ever been. They made an easy raid with easy challenges, and they made a hard dungeon that was only hard because of power. The Grandmasters are super easy. We won't be raising the power cap in Season 22. I like the fact that they're not raising the power cap. I think it's almost too much at this point to expect, hardcore players to log into the game and grind this out and get to the max power level. And for casuals who don't care anymore, only hop on for maybe 3 or 4 weeks of storytelling, I think that having a fixed power cap is set, but only if the grind for the seasonal power level is adequate enough to take on challenges. Because, as we're seeing, master raids are still kind of challenging. It just takes a lot of damage resistance and you can get through them, but the cap to the actual damage dealt based on seasonal light level is kind of intense for people who don't spend 30, 20 plus hours a week playing this game. For those craving even tougher challenges, we've raised the bar in GMs this season with our first PsyOps Battleground GM. PsyOps are awful. Battlegrounds are awful. It is artificial difficulty. I don't like it. I've already covered this earlier. They're not difficult. It's artificial difficulty by giving enemies one-shot potential and just an infinite amount of HP to work through. They haven't been a challenge for a while. And PsyOps in Battlegrounds should not be included. I repeat, should not be included in the Nightfall rotation. Nightfalls are Nightfalls for a reason. They're supposed to be strikes. Bring back strikes. 3. Enrich our content. They've enriched themselves. Based on the feedback throughout the Witch Queen, we knew players wanted more exotic missions that the community would need to discover on their own. Now, I can't remember what the line is, but there was a line in here essentially stating to the effect you can either have Crucible maps or you can have exotic missions. Why not both? Why not hire people to work on the game that's making you millions of dollars year on year, fist over fist? Why not do that? But I digressed. The Avalon exotic mission is good. The Whetstone exotic mission is good, even though I don't think it's that difficult. I think that people are just being babies for no reason. And the rotational activities coming back, being Presage, Vox Obscura, Seraph's Shield, those are all good. The Revision 0 quest mission needs to come back. The Whisper of the Worm mission needs to come back. Those are two things that have been desperately needed. I don't care if the rewards are old. The missions themselves are fun, and they're good, speedy challenges, and just make them a pinnacle activity. Recap the PvP front, delivering the season content we mentioned above, being the map of the new game modes and a new Trials of Osiris set. We are initially targeting more targeted changes in the final season of Lightfall this year. I don't think they're going to do this. They've already promised PvP changes before. This is basically dangling the keys in front of us to just make us stick around, to just give them more money while we hope the PvP changes. I'm not too invested in PvP, but I care what my friends think. I care what the community thinks. So this is awful. It really is. This thing right here, the Pathfinder, I think it looks super interesting. I hope the rewards per week are more than just a simple prime engram, because otherwise that's going to make me cry myself to sleep. I don't see any reason why people would do this Pathfinder system more than once if it is the way that I think it's going to be, but I'm going to reserve my judgment on the Pathfinder as a new and unique way to get loot. We've never seen anything like this before. There's a bunch of nodes to fill out to do challenges on. It looks like there's some XP wheels on these challenges that you need to do before you unlock them. So I'll just reserve my judgment. We'll see. We'll see. Connector Guardians. They promised the LFG feature forever. I don't believe them. I don't believe this is going to be good. We already have guided games for the raids. They've never been useful. If you want to be in a community, you just have to find one through an LFG, through an external LFG service, or through the forums, or through Twitter. Just Bungie's own tools do not make it easy to find friends. And it's over. Features listed above, combined with everything we've about to show on August 22nd, and everything is yet to come. We create the best gameplay experience for the widest possible audience Destiny has ever seen. Final Shape is incredibly special to all of us for the culmination of Destiny's first decade, and we're committed to making it just as special for all of our players worldwide as the showdown with the Witness approaches. Thanks again for taking the time to read this. Today was just a piece of what we have in store, so if we don't run into you before the tower, we sure hope to see you all at the showcase on the August 22nd. Joe. Well, Joe Blackburn, I'll tell you, this state of the game is a nightmare. What's best said was nothing, and what was said was everything. Not addressing players' core concerns, not addressing the feedback of the community. Bungie, in this state of the game, did just enough to keep players around, to keep players spending money. They made more excuses as to why they couldn't develop content as to why they were actually developing content. It is outstanding. It is mind-blowing to me that the same studio who was responsible for the Halo games, same studio that put together Halo 2 in the span of 8 or 9 months, are now finding excuses that game dev is hard, that they don't have the resources, just imaginary things that just simply are not true for a studio of their caliber. Bungie isn't some indie studio. Bungie was just purchased for billions of dollars by Sony. They funneled that money into the thing that might make them money, Marathon and Project Matter, in an unannounced IP, but they're forgetting the people that got them. They're people like you and me. People have dedicated 9 and nearly 10 years of their lives to this franchise. The backbone. Without us, there is no them. And they don't understand why. And it seems like they haven't learned their lesson. For now, just wait until the showcase. And see you next time.